to speak directly to you, the voters, and to discuss their intent with you. Candidates won't debate each other and won't address each other. Candidates will be asked questions that you, the Frio County voters, have sent us. These questions were sent to us at the newspaper office. We collated them and put them together for this forum. Candidates sitting at the table today have not seen these questions before and have not been given advance notice of what they will be discussing. Please note that we feature candidates today who have chosen to come who are on the Democratic and Republican Party ballots and who are independents. Winners of the Democratic and Republican Party primaries will be on the ballot in the November general election. Candidates who have filed letters of intent as independents are not part of the primary election process, but will be on the ballot in November. With that said, please let me say that our candidates will have time limits on the responses they give, and everybody will be given a chance to answer each of the questions. I'm going to hand this over to Breyana, who will be your moderator. Thanks.
All right, y'all ready? So what we're going to do is we're going to start off. You get 3 minutes to introduce yourself. Okay, we'll take turns. We'll start here and we'll just work down the line. Then we're going to ask a question, and you get 2 minutes to respond to the question. They're in no particular order. We'll start here, first question, and then you can answer. And then the second question, Mr. Alvarez, you'll have the first opportunity to answer, third question, so on and so forth, just like that. We'll just go down the line. And then you'll have a 2-minute closing. I will be timing it, and I will cut you off, okay, just for time constraints. So we'll start with the introduction. Mrs. Moore, you may take the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Moore, AKPA Moore, AK Mrs. Moore, and I practice medicine here as a physician assistant. Initially, I came to this area in September 1999 upon graduating from the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston. And I currently work for the Frio Regional Hospital as a primary care as well as an urgent care PA for in Dilley, Texas. In 2014, I spearheaded one of the most political upheaval that resulted in a better tomorrow for the city of Pearsall. And after that, 2015, I became the mayor of Pearsall, Texas. I served as the mayor of Pearsall, Texas from 2015 until 2021. But that was a very taxing time, especially when the pandemic hit. By far, the most challenging thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. But by the grace of God, I was able to get it done. And I can say that with all my hard work, 24 hours, meetings, 24 hours taking care of patients, I did not lose a COVID patient. But the most amazing thing that happened to me during the pandemic is that I met the man of my dreams. And he's sitting there, he's from New York, Mr. Alex Shiver, but he is now a resident of Pearsall, Texas. He said, on the second date, he said to me, "You're gonna marry me, and you're gonna move to Boerne, Texas." He got it half right. He's here now in Pearsall, Texas. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to all in attendance. I'm glad to be here as a candidate for Frio County Judge in the upcoming election. I'm here and I'm running. Well, let's go back to, I respect Mary Moore's introduction. I was mayor for 2 consecutive terms as well for the city of Pearsall prior to Mrs. Moore. And welcome to Mayor Briscoe here. So that experience itself did provide me the leadership for the city of Pearsall. We did pre-pandemic, right? But we did a lot of good, didn't raise any taxes in in my 2 terms as mayor. And for the most part, I think all the employees and the morale was really, really high throughout my tenure. So I'm proud of that. As we all know, we built that was during my term is where all the big hotels to Pearsall came. So we have the Hampton Inn, we got the La Quinta Holiday Inn Express, and a couple of more, two more hotels. So that was a big accomplishment, right, on behalf of the city. And I was happy to be mayor during that tenure. So, but more importantly so, I'm running for county judge because our taxpayer dollar is better, right? I tell folks, I'm a businessman. I'm not a bureaucrat. So I tell people every day, cities, counties, they all can go broke if you don't know how to manage them. So that's the experience that I bring. As a business manager, as a business partner, as a family-owned business, and not only Frio County, but also LaSalle County, we have 3 stores. So that allows me to meet a lot of people so we can figure out what's going on in the course of living the day-to-day, right? Everybody wants to live a good life. Everybody wants to do good. Everybody wants to make a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that I believe, in my opinion, right now, Frio County faces challenges. I am not privy to the numbers because I'm not presently on the Commissioner's Court, but as your Frio County judge, I promised that I would do everything in my power to make sure that our taxpayer dollars, all of our taxpayer dollars, I see the Frio County Sheriff's Office here. I'm sorry I didn't see the City Police Department. That's okay. We're represented. I'm pro-law enforcement. My son is a peace officer. I have many friends who are in law enforcement. And I'm proud of those guys. Thank you for what y'all do. And last and foremost, just to be clear, I was born, raised in Pearsall. And I'm proud to say that I was born proud and strong. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jose Asuncion, and I am currently the Frio County Commissioner from Precinct 4. And one of the questions that I always field is, how did you get elected to the Commissioner's Court with that accent? And the answer is, in large part, my family. If you're anything like my grandma, when she's getting to know someone, she has 2 questions. Who's your mom? Who's your grandma? So my grandmother was born in Moore in 1929. She was of the Longoria and Duncan families. Her name was Maria Alicia Longoria. They called her Licha. In the 40s, she moved to Pearsall, spent the rest of her teen years there, and finished high school there. I met my grandfather. My grandfather was born in Dili and also grew up in Dili. His name was Arnulfo Cantu Steaks. They called him Pipo Steaks. So my roots are from all across the county, Moore, Pearsall, Dili. They married at Immaculate Heart here in Pearsall and moved to Chicago. That's where they had their kids, and that's where I derived this way of talking. Every summer as a kid, I was shipped down here, spend time with the grandparents, go to church, got my first communion at St. Joseph's, and my connection to Frio County, I know everybody here was born and raised here, we all have family, but since I have lived elsewhere, you really appreciate every day that you get to be with family and people like your family and people who talk like your family. So that's my background on that side. It's appropriate that we're having this forum in this building. This was the site of the warehouse for the Frio COVID Lifeline, which was one of my big achievements as commissioner. And it was also a warming center that the city of Pearsall set up during the winter storm. The pandemic and the winter storm were 2 pivotal events that motivated me to decide to run for judge because of the unique authority and power that is vested within the judge to guide us through emergencies. So I'll be mentioning both of those things much more throughout this debate. Thank you very much.
Define yourself as an above-the-bar leader. Excluding the COVID-19, what has been your worst-case scenario or item that you have faced as an elected official, and explain what you did or how you took a role in getting it resolved?
The worst case scenario for me was when we had to take action on an unruly council member. So prior to that, thank God we had placed rules of engagement in place so that when this occurrence arose, we would be able to act upon that policy. So this particular person was out of line. We took action. We were sued, but we won the lawsuit. Thank you.
Same question. Do you want me to repeat it or the question? Okay. It says, define yourself as an above-the-bar leader, excluding the COVID-19. What has been your worst-case scenario or item that you have faced as an elected official, and explain what you did or how you took a huge role in getting it resolved?
During my tenure as mayor, we had feedback. We had the city manager's position was the biggest.
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay. Better. Okay. Yes, during my tenure, the city manager position was the one that was probably was the most problematic for me. Having to choose a good city manager is having to choose, a great partner, right? Because without a city manager who doesn't have the ability or the ability to do a great job for the citizens of Pearsall, would be problematic. So that's one of the things, or that was the most important that I faced, that I had problems with, because we had to shift city managers, and that was interesting because everybody comes to the table with education background. Not too many come with a leadership background, so I had to make sure that we were able to hire the best qualified city manager, and I think that's what we did at the end of the day. In fact, I had two city managers when I was mayor, and both of those individuals were really, really good for the city. They had a lot of respect for the employees, for all city employees. There was always accountability. We never raised taxes during my tenure. So the city manager position was the one that gave me more headache than any other.
I'm going to focus on the winter storm Uri because in many ways, as a commissioner and as a resident, I found that even more traumatic than the pandemic. The county and the cities have an emergency management plan, and during the emergency response, commissioners do not have a role, right? But I will tell you that all of the commissioners stepped up during that event. And I can tell you what I did personally. We adapted the Frio COVID Lifeline call center into a winter storm response. So we already had delivery that we were able to do. So we connected with other agencies to be able to provide food to people and wellness checks. So we received calls from Pearsall Council people, from Dilley Council people, to check on particular people, make sure they have food. We received calls from home health providers to check on their patients. And then those people would then say, hey, can you go check on my sister? So that's what I spent a lot of the time doing. We connected, as I said before, with other agencies. One of them was Meals on Wheels. They have a list of homebound Frio County residents. So we said, hey, can you let us know who they are so that we can check on them as well? Frio County WIC connected us to the Child Care Board, and they donated several cans of formula. We're having a formula issue again, but during the storm, those were cleared from the shelves. So we got formula donations and distributed to moms in Frio County. And then I scrounged up emergency blankets and pillows, brought them here to this warming center. And then there was an after the storm shift that we had to make to recovery, and that's still ongoing.
Okay, your 2 minutes is up. All right, Mr. Alvarez, the next question, start with you. A judge serves as a magistrate. They set bonds on suspects for a variety of offenses, from misdemeanors to felonies. Many times the citizens here feel the bonds are either set too low or too high for the crime that has been committed. What process do you plan to utilize when setting bonds?
Fairness, right? Fairness is really the key for that, because I think, in my opinion, not everybody who's arrested is a criminal. All lives matter. All lives matter. So I'm going to take that in consideration when somebody is arrested. You know, everybody does their job. Police does their job. Bring them into booking, whatever. We magistrate them. I'm going to be fair. Like I say, everybody needs a chance. Maybe somebody had a bad day, bad evening. You know, what I don't put up with is child abuse, domestic violence. Those are two different issues for me. But if you're out and about having a good time, Saturday night, get caught under the influence, fine. But why is a judge, any capable judge, going to set a high bond? All we have to do is keep them in jail, feed them. Those are taxpayer dollars, folks. So I would be reasonable to anybody who's arrested, and then let the law work from there.
Do you need me to repeat the question? Okay.
In terms of process to follow for setting bonds, we have 4 very good JPs, and I would not try to reinvent that process whatsoever and follow precedent. One of the aspects that goes into consideration is whether it was violent and also the nature of the violence. So if someone's been in a conflict, what one of the judges told me is they like to give them a cool down period to make sure that they're not putting them out right into the same position. And I will tell you, if I, as a commissioner, have not had to set any bonds, and if I feel that we need more experience, I will not hesitate to call on the people who've been doing it for a lot longer than I have.
Go ahead.
Testing. In the event the JPs are not available, then it is the job of the county judge to intervene. And first of all, I would look at the situation. Is this a first offender, second offender, or one that, as we call, a frequent flyer? And then I would base my decision, after doing all of my homework, I would base my decision on what amount of the bond should be. And that's how you got to do as a judge. You got to be objective. And you got to hear both sides of the story before you make that decision. And if I don't understand fully, there's resources, there are people I can call and say, hey, this is the case. What do you suggest I should do? And that's what I think should be done in the event a county judge would have to take over because in the absence of the JPs. Thank you.
The next question is going to start with you, Mr. Asuncion. What work experience can you provide as evidence that you are qualified to be in charge of a multi-million-dollar budget? Your time starts now.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so besides the obvious answer, which is that I've been on the Commissioner's Court now for 3 budget processes, and I know there's talk about Commissioner spending, but We have followed the tradition of not raising property tax rates since 2013, and that's even in the face of declining revenues. Aside from the commissioner experience, I also was a small business owner. I gave that up when I started as commissioner. We weren't multi-million-dollar, but I think given more time, we would have hit that. And I built that from scratch. I built that starting window chip repairs at 25 bucks a pop. And we grew to have multiple employees, and I had to learn payroll, healthcare, taxes, all of that stuff I did. I'd like to bring up one other thing in the remaining time that's very unique. I went to film school, and we handled multi-million-dollar budgets there. And in part of our training, we had to come up with budgets and get investors, and I've worked on big projects. Well, I see the investors as similar to the taxpayers, right? If I want you to give money to my project, I have to be able to defend the expenditures, each and every one. And so investors, I think, pay a lot more attention to where their dollars are going than many of our taxpayers. They want to make sure they turn a profit. And I think too many elected officials think that they can just go back to the taxpayer well and refund their bank accounts. But that was not an option in my film background.
Okay, your time is up.
Can you repeat that question, Pam? Can you repeat that question?
No, it's her. It's her turn to answer. Yes.
That's okay. That's okay.
Did you want me to repeat it or?
Yes, please.
Okay. It says, what work experience can you provide as evidence that you are qualified to be in charge of a multi-million-dollar budget?
Well, the work experience came when I was the mayor of Pearsall. When I was the mayor, we had extensive budget training. We had the workshops, the continuing education classes when we went to the conferences. Budget workshops were one of the ones that I would always attend because it's very important as a leader, as the county judge, that you become good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And you only get in that position by learning as much as you can about your position. And that's why I feel like I'm qualified to handle what the county has to offer as well.
Okay. So the next question is going to start back over here with you. I thought he answered. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, I apologize. Go ahead.
That's all right. Well, yeah, speaking of budgets, yeah, I'd have to admit, the city of Pearsall as mayor, right? 3 million budget, whatever it was back then. But yeah, those are a lot of numbers. Those are a lot of numbers, and we did a lot with that money. I think we served our people well, the city well. And that was, of course, it's always challenging, right? The city, like I say, city's budget is just like a personal budget, right? You have so much money in your bank account. Well, guess what? You can't spend more than what you have. So that's what we did. We managed that budget, myself and other folks within the city, my city manager, the finance manager, and also to add on as a small business owner. You know, there are no investors. We don't have investors. There's nothing to. Nobody knocks on my door. Nobody knocks on my dad's door. We do it all. And that's challenging because, especially nowadays, because during this economy, it's retail is very challenging. But nonetheless, we can work with our budget, and we have so for approximately 50 years now. I'm proud to say. So that's those two budgets: the city mayor or the city of Pearsall budget, and the budget as a small business owner.
Okay, now we'll move on to the next question.
As needed. We call it PRN in medicine. So basically, when there was a project or role had to be, we contracted out because we did not have the need for a full-time mayor. I really don't see the need of a full-time, not full-time mayor, full-time engineer. I really don't see the need for the one in the county either, because we had very, very, very good county employees. I understand that you said the law requires, but you had county employees that was well-versed in what they were doing. What we should have done was just sourced out for an engineer versus hiring one who never, well, besides the point, instead of having one full-time, we should have sourced out. We would have had less problems than we do now. Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez, would you like me to repeat the question? Or
Please repeat it. Please repeat it.
the law requires an engineer for public roads and buildings. What is your position with having an on-staff engineer?
I'm not sure that the law requires, but I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the law requires for a county to have an engineer on the payroll. But as most of you folks know as well, my dad was a county commissioner for 16 years, so he's a retired Frio County commissioner. And they had an engineer. I'm not sure, I didn't really ask him, but from what my memory says, they had an engineer for a year or two max, and guess what? They got rid of him. It was a gentleman, a real nice gentleman. So I remember his name. But engineer for now, it's not what Frio County needs, because there are a lot of people, a lot of county employees, especially the Road and Bridge Department, right, that are really qualified or that have worked for many, many years and can actually use the equipment high, and of course nowadays the maintainers and tractors and bulldozers, whatever we have out there, they're obviously more modern, but we have the staff. I've been told by these employees, and I've been told by the employees that were actually fired, they're hurt. Those people are hurt. Somebody hurt those families, and I'm trying to figure out who, why, and what we're going to do to bring those folks back, because those folks are citizens of this city. Most of them are city of Pearsall citizens. They lost their jobs, folks. Who in the world wants to lose a job when you know that you're doing a fine job representing the people of the county? There's got to be some form or fashion where there's a check and balance to say, and I understand it, I get it. I used to work for the state for 20 years. We are employed at will. State employees at will, county employees at will.
Your time is up.
But we need to do better.
We switched over to an engineer system in 1985, and depending on what years your father was commissioner, it would have been either Mr. Garcia or Marc Sorensen that were the engineer. Dilley, decades ago, in Precinct 4 was mostly dirt roads, and that work was done, and many of those roads were paved under the tenure of Marc Sorensen. I think with the city currently, right now, part of the reason you're able to do without an engineer on staff is that our engineer meets with the city and offers some consulting on road repair and as well as drainage. Now, perhaps most importantly, I'd like to go over the numbers. Her salary is $140,000 a year. Now, that is high compared to the rest of the staff at the county, but she has specific degrees. Now, what has been the return on that $140,000 since she's been hired? Well, we got a CTIF grant for $1 million. You know the last time we got a CTIF grant for over $1 million? It was the last time we had an engineer. After we got that grant, the county let go of the engineer at that time, and they paved a road which should still be considered new in my precinct. And they did that without an engineer on staff. Well, this new road, as soon as we get heavy rains, is torn up because we did not have someone locally who understood the terrain to design drainage. Besides that $1 million, we have also been able to participate in the off-system bridge program. I don't have time to go into that, but that has been worth $1 million in 2019, which went to the replacement of a bridge in my precinct, and $1 million this month. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next question starts with you, Mr. Alvarez. Are you ready? Okay. The county has used roughly $400,000 of the $1.9 million from the American Rescue Plan, the ARP. The money has been spent on PPE, employee premium pay, vaccination incentives, and other building equipment. They are set to receive another $1.9 million later this year. What projects do you propose the money to be used for?
That money that was spent, the majority of the money that was spent, I'm totally for. And the money that's coming in, I'm gonna direct that money, or make sure that money is directed to our veterans. You know, veterans always seem to be left out. We do get that money, and before I forget, the money that's coming in, I want to make sure, and I'll be there wherever I have to be, to make sure that money, any money, will not be used for salary actions, because that money is for the people. I think we fell asleep at the wheel this past go-round, and the commissioners approved salary raises, salary actions for certain departments, and I think that wasn't what that money was supposed to be spent for. So going forward, I hope that we can assist the veterans. We all know that ACOG has a great program for veterans. If they qualify, another big word, qualification, right? Why does a veteran have to qualify? Well, he can't qualify because he makes $30,000 a year. $30,000 a year? Come on. So I want a bulk of that money that's coming in to address our veterans in different forms. Thank you.
When it comes to resources and grants and funding, I think one of the things we always try to consider is what resources are already out there, because we don't want to double up our funding on someone else who has the money and is able to allocate it better than we can. That's number one. Number two, on I heard you mention the salary action. The money is for COVID mitigation. We gave money to employees because we have had sick time and vacation time allocated in non-pandemic times. So now we're in the throes of a pandemic. We do not want people to come to work when they have COVID. Initially last year we had what's called admin pay, and it was up to the department heads to decide when someone could come in or not come in and get paid no matter what. Well, what this ARPA money that went to the employees was designed to do was cap that and say, all right, the CDC has lowered the amount of time for quarantine. We want to make sure that you use the sick time and vacation time as you would have in normal times. And also we're going to give you some money so that you can survive if you get sick from COVID-19. That's that. But in terms of where I would like to see the rest of the ARPA money go, it's toward emergency management. There are a number of places that are deficient in our current emergency management preparation. And if we are caught off guard by another emergency, it's going to set us back again, and we're going to keep spinning our wheels. It's going to be a hole that's hard to dig ourselves out from. Thank you.
Some of the things that San Antonio is doing currently, because I have individuals up there who are continually to receive the COVID fundings with help with their rent, with mortgages because their jobs haven't been restored, utilities. And because we were hit, it was a devastation, especially for the rural areas. Many people lost their jobs. We need to have a mechanism in place that we are taking care of the people within our community. Yes, I agree with Ms. Alvarez about helping the veterans, but we got to understand there are strategic guidelines on how we can do that, so we must stay within those guidelines. But anyone, veteran, non-veteran, who has been affected greatly by COVID should be still receiving help. And maybe they still do, but being that I'm not in city government or county government, I'm not aware of that. But that's why I feel that the 1.9 million that's coming in, let's continue to make sure we are spending those dollars the best way we can by helping the individual in the greatest need. Thank you. With the greatest need. Thank you.
All right. The next question, Mr. Asuncion, we'll start with you. Last year, Governor Abbott created Operation Lone Star. It authorizes state and local PD to partner with owners of borderland ranches and use trespassing laws to arrest illegal immigrants who cross their land. So with limited jail housing available to the county and the rising cost of inmate housing costing taxpayers more than ever, what are your plans to best serve the citizens of Frio County?
So Operation Lone Star money was applied for by the Sheriff's Department and already received. And what that money has gone to was, I believe, night vision goggles, jail rehab, as well as jail staff. What we're doing right now is we're using this money as a cushion to expand the jail to 96 beds. And what the reason for that is there's the potential for revenue by renting bed space to other counties for their inmates. Now, I have taken the position that it is not yet proven that making that space available to out-of-county inmates will actually be profitable, but the Sheriff's Department is determined to show us that it is. And we are using this grant to give them the opportunity to prove it. And there is another possibility, which is that expanding to 96 beds is actually necessary to fund our 48-bed need just because of economies of scale. There's a lot to be seen because the jail was only opened, as we know, in October. It's a learning process for all of us. And we're very thankful for that grant because it's taking a lot of pressure off of the property taxpayers.
Ms. Moore, would you like me to? Okay. Last year, Governor Greg Abbott created Operation Lone Star. It authorizes state and local PD to partner with landowners of borderland ranches and use trespassing laws to arrest illegal immigrants who cross their land. So with limited jail housing available to the county and the rising cost of inmate housing costing taxpayers more than ever, what are your plans to best serve the citizens of Frio County?
Well, my plan, if elected, is to allow the county sheriff, our sheriff, to continue doing what they're doing. They have basically kept their word in getting the jail open. And being a citizen, that's a big step. Yes, maybe in the future it will become profitable, but at least now we're keeping the money within the county. So that's really all I have to say.
Mr. Alvarez.
That grant money was, like it's been said, yeah, it's good. Any grant money is good, whatever the use of it, as long as it goes to good use. But in this particular grant, I have a problem because first of all, we're 100 miles away from the border, approximately 100 miles, right? And I think that the border problem is a federal problem, you know? That's what Governor Abbott is out saying everywhere he goes, that the border, and the border. But that's fine. The money's here. It's been allocated, or it's in the budget. It's in the bank. But here's what I said the other day, and I continue to say it about incarceration, I guess, in general, right? As we know, Briscoe unit in Dilley has been leased to the federal government for ICE detainees, right? So the state of Texas is closing prisons for a reason, right? So here's the member of the executive director appointed by a 9-member board appointed by the governor and said, diversion, treatment, and education programs, as well as a low rate of people getting sent back to prison, led to the decision to start closing some prisons. Can you imagine all that money that the state of Texas is saving? Like I say it again, not everybody who gets in trouble with the law is a criminal. It depends on their history. Yeah, of course, we don't want repeat offenders to be out loose in the streets. We have to have safety in our communities. But that grant, I opposed the 96-bed deal because at some point that money's going to run out, right?
Okay, your time is up, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Asuncion, it's your turn to answer first. You did, I'm sorry, Ms. Moore. February 2021, the county and the cities were unprepared for Winter Storm Uri. As judge, what is your plan to develop an emergency preparedness plan in the event this occurs again?
It caught me off guard as well. February 2021 was, wow. It was devastating for our county and for our state, the entire state. We all caught off guard. But the thing we should plan for, if elected for judge, because you learn by your mistakes, is to get our emergency team together, since the county judge is the head of the emergency department. We train, we order supplies, we plan for what may happen again for our county. And once we have that in place, then we're prepared. We're basically prepared. Next time it may not be a winter storm. It may be a tornadic event, but we need to find out where the shelters will be. How will we rescue people? It may be a major flood. It doesn't necessarily have to be another ice storm. The emergency department should be ready for all catastrophic events that may occur in our county. Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat it, the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. February 2021, the county and cities were unprepared for Winter Storm Uri. As judge, what is your plan to develop an emergency preparedness plan in the event that it occurs again?
Well, funding, as February 20 is come and gone, right? So now we're back to basic, trying to figure out who has to do what. Emergency management I'm a firm supporter of that. And if there's any way that we can get more funding into that area, then so be it, right? Yeah, it's hard. It's devastating to watch people without power, power, water, and so forth. And we can't afford to blame the city. The city blames the county blames the city, and that doesn't work. So the funding for that for emergency management is really important. So we need to make sure that the numbers are there so we can have enough staff to go around and look for people who need help, so we can all be, get over it like we did the winter storm.
So the question was, what will you do to develop an emergency management plan? And it just so happens that I brought a document called Emergency Management Plan for Frio County, Texas. We have one. This is based on the Texas Division of Emergency Management template. It is a good plan. So actually step one is to read it. This management plan was approved by our current judge, by former Mayor Marianne Obregon and by former Mayor Mary Moore. After we read it, we have to do the things that it says. There are 4 categories of emergency management, and those are, I'm not sure I wrote them down, but from memory they are mitigation, preparation, response, and recovery. So one of the things that I found that we were deficient in a number of things in this plan. And to let you know what I did as commissioner to improve the situation, I brought this plan to court and I said, this is our plan, this is a policy that has been passed, we are obliged to follow these steps, but that is in the hands of the judge and the emergency management coordinator, which is appointed by the judge. So I pushed as hard as I can as the commissioner. But this has to be distributed to all the elected officials. I didn't know this existed until well after I took office. Everybody needs to understand their roles. There are roles for the sheriff's department, for the PDs, for the schools, for the transportation division of the schools. We need to review it, and we need to review it regularly. And based on the plan, then we'll decide where we put the funding. That's a start, and that's my 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right, so this will be the last question, and we'll start with Mr. Alvarez. After this question, you each will have 2 minutes also to have any closing remarks. The question is, a county judge is supposed to uphold laws and policies. What is your understanding of laws and policies, and how do you plan to uphold those laws and policies?
Keep the current laws and policies in place. You know, everybody has, like I said earlier, we have to make sure that everybody is treated equal. So as long as we follow that direction, you know, I think that everything else falls into place. So really, I mean, it's really a no-brainer. But to follow the policies and to have everybody to be able to have due process, you know, it's one of my. I support that a lot. I support it a lot because there's people of all kinds. I mean, we just recently had some shootings, right, here in Dilley, and who wants that? I mean, we need to make sure that some of those folks, you know, are not in the streets anymore, and we need to take care of the domestic violence. So all those policies, I would make sure that that we keep the good policies in place. And if there's any policy that needs to be revisited and to change or tweak, whatever, we can do that. We'll do that.
Thank you.
For me, the answer is much like the emergency management plan. You have to read the policies, and then you have to implement them and follow them. And it is really tough to follow them. You know, first of all, historically, we've made a lot of exceptions, and we've made a lot of exceptions without going through the proper channels. So you already have many residents who have this expectation that we don't really have to follow policy. So it's really a challenge. We don't want to say no. We want to accommodate everybody. I personally don't like doing it, but you have to follow it. And when the opportunity presents itself, we either find a way within the rules to help whoever it is that needs help. And if we get enough of a similar complaint, then we can visit the policy to see if it needs change. Thank you.
Well, policies are put in place for a reason. Because some of the problems we have in the county is that we don't enforce the policies. And I've just recently learned that we do not have a grievance policy. That's why the situation is the way it is with the 7 employees that were terminated, or 5 or 7. We do not have policies for commissioner court. I think that we should have rules of engagement so the commissioners will know how to conduct themselves in the commissioners' court. The citizens, when they're up to speak, they will know how to conduct themselves in commissioners' court, as well as the commissioners. That's what rules of engagement are all about. It's one of the jobs as the judge is to maintain decorum. We don't want to be a laughingstock for our community. We want to do things in a professional and orderly manner. So, with that being said, I think we should implement more policies, especially the ones that I mentioned.
All right, Mr. Asuncion, since you were next to speak or answer a question, you can start with your closing remarks. You have 2 minutes.
When I took the job as commissioner, one of the things that I was told is, don't even bother trying to work with the cities because the cities and the county do not work together. And I can tell you that I have not had that experience since I've been here. The communication goes 2 ways. I can reach out to council people or to the superintendents. They contact me. We've collaborated on a number of initiatives. Besides the Frio COVID Lifeline, we actually had a 6-month homeless program, which we were able to house 50 residents who actually were all from Pearsall. We were able to set up vaccines for staff and students at the schools who were eligible within 1 week of eligibility, opening up guidelines, or within eligibility being opened up by the CDC. So I've been here, I've been doing the work, and I've met the other people who are serious about doing the work. And as I said before, there are opportunities that are available only to the judge. There is access that's available only to the judge. There are powers that are available only to the judge. And I think in that position, I'd be better able to build upon what we've already begun. Thank you.
Mrs. Moore, you're next. Closing remarks?
In the beginning, I did not address why I wanted to seek the office of judge, because I have a lot to bring to the table. Life challenges have prepared me with the compassion for the people, and there is a lot of need in this community. A good judge, you can have a judge, but a great judge reaches out beyond his office, beyond the community, the commissioner's court, and get out into the community and find out what the needs are. If just your presence can make a difference. My medical training has taught me how to critically think in emergency situations. Because one of the roles, again, as I mentioned earlier, is that as a judge, you're head of the emergency management department. So if you were to elect me, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to learn everything that needs to be learned, because I want to do the best for my community. And the fact that I got to serve as mayor, you know me. The citizens of Pearsall, you know how I operate. You know I was there when I was called. I wasn't one of those mayors that wasn't reachable. Well, I didn't have time for you. And that's what this county needs. It needs someone to pull every entity we have. We have the school, we have the hospital district, we have the county, and we have the school board. The person that's in that position got to be able to work with every entity in order for this community to move forward. And I think I'm the best one for that job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Alvarez?
If elected as a county judge, I will continue to push for employee rights and to make sure that our employees are compensated and have all the tools necessary to do their jobs to improve our county, whether it be roads or office management or whatever. And also our taxpayers. That's where what I said in my opening is our taxpayer dollars matter, folks. Nobody wants to just dish out a bunch of money for nothing in return, right? It's just like everything else. But if you want someone to represent you full-time, and to be fiscally conservative, I say conservative because I am a fiscal conservative. I run my dad's business, and we've been able to survive through hard times, like a lot of small employees here in the community. But I'm here to serve all of the Frio County residents if I'm elected as judge. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to thank all of you for attending. I would like to thank the candidates for agreeing to come today and answer the questions that were submitted by residents of the county. Sheriff, for bringing your deputies, and for Oscar and Matthew over here, who jumped on board right away and volunteered to stream this and record it. Again, thank you all for coming. Enjoy your day.